Good morning, and it's time for another edition of What's News in Healthcare Social Media. I'm Kathy Brown of Brown Knows Social Media, and today I'm doing something different. I have invited viewers to come join me for this conversation. So if you're watching today, check the event page, look below. I've provided the link. You can come in and join the conversation. I want to talk with you about the topics we're going to discuss today. I already have one person who's joined me. Steve, would you like to say hello?
Hi there, yes, I'm Stephen and Contrera with Next Wave Connect.
Wonderful. And we'll see who else can join us here. I may have taken some people by surprise by seeing the link come across with an invite to the Hangout. So don't panic. If you've never done this before, I don't expect professional expertise in this. Just come join the conversation. You may come in muted, and if you do, you can just unmute yourself with a simple click. And we'll get started because we only have half an hour. And I'm going to start with the very first topic that we have. And the article is Doctors Taking Proactive Approach to Online Rating and Review Sites. And this article talks about how doctors are realizing the importance of those review sites and the importance of monitoring them and addressing the negative comments rather than just letting people post whatever they want to post, which usually results in disgruntled patients posting bad things and happy patients going home and forgetting about it. Do you have any thoughts on this, Stephen?
I mean, like, my biggest thing is I think reputation management is very important for you to kind of go out and do see what is being said about you. But if somebody gets a bad review, but they do a nice job explaining why or you know, some sort of, insight onto why that person was unhappy with their experience, I think that is even leaps and bounds better than a 4 or 5 star review. I mean, just having that dialogue between a patient or going to right or wrong, I think it says wonders about the doctor or the business who does things like that. So I think it's great to see when people participate.
That's great as long as there's good monitoring and you can respond to all those. Now, there are some sites that don't allow you to respond to the negative comments, and that can really be harmful. I was talking with, I'm trying to remember who it was, somebody had told me that they started a campaign in their practice that rather than allowing people to go out there and just post when they felt like it, they were proactively giving a place to respond to report poor experiences while they were still in the office in an effort to divert those and take care of them before they ever hit the internet, while also incentivizing patients to go out and provide good reviews when they make a good comment. Have you heard of any other places doing that, or any stories similar to that? Or how would you provide that?
That's great, but I mean, that seems like the next logical step is for some of this real-time, reputation management. Maybe there's some sort of intranet inside the doctor's office that allows a patient to type in, I've been here for 15 minutes and nobody's even spoken to me, and that might set off that cue, hey, just address this patient real quick. And, that can turn a negative feeling into a good feeling, even better than when they first came in, just to know that they are being looked after or taken care of. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And especially incentivizing positive reviews. I mean, like, I can't tell you how much I've stressed people going and telling just either clients or people who shop at a business to go home and rate me on Google Plus if you thought I did a good job, and it'll help my business get found in search.
Yes, sometimes it's a matter of getting from the office to the home. There is this time where they lose the interest in posting those reviews, and I know in the past that some physician practices have attempted to capture that right when they're checking out by providing more or less a kiosk, a laptop right there by the counter, and telling people to go ahead and post a review when they provide a comment or a compliment specifically. And the problem that has happened with that is a lot of these review sites pay attention to the IP address, and when they see multiple posts to the same IP address, they're considering those bogus posts and removing them. So
yeah. And I don't know how I would feel about logging in my personal Facebook page or something, logging in to write a good review on Facebook or give them a like or anything like that, or even my Google Plus or my Gmail. That would leave me feeling very vulnerable. So.
Yeah, well, and some of these sites like Review My Doc and Rate My Doc, I forget all the websites there are, but a lot of those are just as simple as creating an account and putting stuff in there, but still, you're right. That is a little personal. If you're putting in your name and address, you really don't know what gets wiped out and what does. What has been a great solution, though, to a lot of practices is to provide a QR code that links directly to the preferred review site. And in some cases, practices are creating their own collection of reviews and putting it on their websites to counterbalance some of the negative things that they don't have control over in some of the other review sites like Health Grades and things. So I think that's a great idea, because with a QR code, you scan it with your phone, you've got it on your phone, it's with your passwords, and you can leave a review right then and there before you even drive home.
Yeah, that's great. And I always think that QR codes are an underutilized tool, and I wish there was a higher adoption rate of people doing them, because you can do so many interesting things with them.
Definitely. Let's move on to the next topic. I see that Scott has joined us. I hope he's going to unmute his mic so he can join the conversation. The next article that we have is Medicine's Future, Group Exams, Doctors on Demand, and Email Check-ins. And I thought that this was a great topic to talk about, because the lines are blurring dramatically these days between the marketing role of social media and the practice role and leadership role of social media. And there's having to be a lot more sensitivity to what is important with the physician leaders, or with the leaders who are making decisions on where the money is spent and where the time is spent. So this is an opportunity for those who are doing marketing and communications to really take a look at where healthcare might be moving in that direction. Did you get a chance to look at this article, Stephen?
No, I haven't, but I do totally see where they're coming from. There's so many interesting things that are happening when you talk about telehealth or these different things that are coming down the line, and what is going to be best for the physician. Are they really going to want to see somebody over a Google Help Out and look down their throat on a TV monitor, or is it going to be something else that is kind of undiscovered? We're in an interesting shift, but just from all the doctors that I talk to, I can tell that collaboration is really something that is bubbling to the surface, both in some of the physician associations and in hospital marketing together. I think they're really trying to tackle these things.
Mm-hmm. Scott, do you have are you able to join us?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, it does work. Yes. Good morning, and thank you for the invitation.
Well, I'm glad you're joining us. We're talking about right now, how social tools can be used not only in marketing practice, but actually providing some of the services. And so I want to pose a question to you. If you were asked by your doctor, after seeing him and knowing what your health issue was, that he would like you to participate later in the week in a virtual group training session to modify your diet. For example, let's say you were put on a low cholesterol diet and they want to give you some specific instructions and foods that you can and cannot use. Would you be willing to join other patients in a private group virtual discussion to get your dietary consultation?
Oh, you actually have two potential questions there, and it depends on which one I want to answer. Would I be willing or happy or want to join a group of other people to discipline myself in a way that I don't necessarily want to? No. But if I don't have a choice, if I'm going to do it one way or the other, I would far prefer to do it in a way that is online than to have to get in the car and drive someplace and sit down and have all of those other things that are trappings that are associated with a meeting. If I could just, I see it's 2 minutes, okay, I'll power up the camera, here we are, let's do it, and then there we go, and then I'm done. That would be 8 times preferable to me, 8 times.
Okay, so it's interesting that what you really separated out is you wouldn't necessarily be interested in the group aspect regardless of how it happened, but you would be interested in not having to travel to get that information. Am I understanding correctly?
Well, I didn't exactly say that. I would say I would go kicking and screaming maybe in person. I'd be interested, but I wouldn't be happy. So I'm going to be unhappy either way, but I'll be less unhappy if I don't have to do 8 times the amount of inconvenience to me to get up, to get dressed, to make sure that my hair is combed, to drive, to park, to go in, to have to be in a lobby, interact with the receptionist. Okay, we finally get into the room. I've got, it's easier to interact with people in the film strip than the small talk that you have to have, and then people come in and all of it. It's just it's a huge deal to do it in person, and it is streamlined to do it, and that's the reason why it's so popular in business. So why not in healthcare?
Mm-hmm. Well, I found it interesting that what this article pointed out that I kind of grabbed onto is, well, first of all, I can see where there might be a need to give an option. first of all, for the whole group thing or virtual thing. But assuming that that was an option that was given, patients were finding value in connecting with other patients over the same health concerns or lifestyle modifications that they were having to do. So in the case of either weight loss or diabetic diets or unusual exercises, or whatever those things are that you're learning, to be able to meet people that are having to go through this at the same time and listen to the questions that they ask that you didn't think about, being of value. That was really very eye-opening to me in this article.
Yeah, I mean, if my pain point is thus and such, maybe literally, maybe just figuratively, and I can collaborate with others who are going through exactly the same thing and who empathize with me and whatnot, that's a big plus.
Mm-hmm. Roxanne, are you able to join us?
Finally, yes.
All right. Yeah, she was coming in and out and in and out. So let me ask you, if you were given the opportunity to do an email check-in to see your doctor, would you do it? And what would you hope to get from that versus being in an office?
If it was to see my physician, follow-up, checkup, no changes, just to go over what medicine I'm on, the same, just
oh, we're still having some connection issues there with Roxanne.
Uh-oh. Now? No.
Yeah, I think you've got a slow internet connection, so there's a long delay in between what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. No changes. Don't want to change the medication. No weight loss, no weight gain, blood pressure. I mean, if you could take your blood pressure at home, you know how to do that. Not having shortness of breath, nothing like that. Sure, that'd be fine if it's your physician. Now, if you're having to talk to another one, I don't like that.
So I'm going to pose a question that really goes into a broader umbrella of all this. So assuming that patients would welcome some of these changes, and assuming that there is benefit to be seen from the practice or the hospital that might decide to employ these, how would a healthcare marketing professional even begin to implement something like this, let alone or introduce it, let alone implement it? What would that look like? Is it even possible? Do you think it's possible to have this discussion this early in the game?
Well, I can jump in, and Stephen and Roxanne should as well. I think if the hospitals or the practices leadership has bought off on it entirely, and then that filters throughout the organization, then the next step is to put the organization out in front of the public. Let them see, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, get to know us a little bit better, and establish the trust factor first, and then once there's that trust space that has been established, then people can step into it. Where I think maybe organizations go awry is they say, oh, well, I want them to do this. I want them to interact with me this way. So I'll I'm a stranger to them, but I'm going to ask them to do it. It might take 6 months in order to establish that sort of track record of, not saying, oh, well, let's do it in terms of email, or let's do it in terms of video or whatnot, just to get out and to get that, to get the basis, the foundation, and then patient education. When you have them in the office, say, this is what we want to do, and these are the reasons why, and we think it's a good idea. What do you think? So get people to opt in first, and then deploy it. So it might take 2 years to turn that ship around so that most of the practice is in the 21st century. But can you imagine going back to the way things were doing it, 5 years ago or in the 1990s? The millennials are not going to want to do that. They're going to want to use their smartphones.
Absolutely. And to what you said, Scott, if you have the hierarchy of the hospital getting behind it, then the marketing team and the patients have probably been behind it for years already. Once you get that.
Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad?
I want to throw something in here. Oh, go ahead. Roxanne, was that you?
Yeah. There's a good point and a bad point. We do this with Novant Medical in North Carolina. They started where you can call in and do it, Skype, and talk to a nurse practitioner or a nurse on call just for the little things. And it's like, well, why don't you just call your office and talk to a nurse there and yourself?
Something
But,
is. Oh, sorry, Roxanne.
Something. What?
I was gonna say something's definitely coming for sure. I went to the Google Fiber announcement in Austin it might have been already a year ago, and the first thing they said in their presentation was about 15 minutes worth of this is going to change the way you see your doctor via this fiber internet connection. They're also building a new medical school here, so I think between the UT Medical School and having the addition of Google Fiber, I bet you this town is going to see lots of experiments with telehealth, and I think it's going to be a real testing ground for what some of these new relationships look like and how we navigate this.
Well, I want to switch gears for just a minute here because we're really going off into one area of how can we implement this, and I want to jump to an article that I have later on the list because I think it relates to this, and that is IT people are the part of the problem in healthcare right now. And so I want to pose that kind of Scott's Go ahead, Scott.
You just pushed a button. You could tell by the look on my face, couldn't you? That's so funny. I've been away from a hospital I worked with for 3.5 years, and it was this morning I was thinking about IT, and really, and it was just kind of a passing thought. I mean, go figure. The IT department has done more to destroy the marketing and outreach and community building of hospitals and practices across the country than any other institution in America, I believe. And they're doing their job. They're afraid of security. So they're the ones who are, they are the tail that is wagging the dog.
Why do you think they're so concerned with security? There's a reason that they are so concerned.
Yeah, because well, for two reasons. One is there's a legitimate reason, and that is let bad guys in, and their systems go down, and if their telehealth systems and others go down, it's a big problem. And the other is that they're IT people, and they don't get it. They just honestly don't get it.
But there's more to it than that, because if the hospital or the practice is found to not be compliant in privacy requirements, there are big, gigantic, like even $1 million fines in some cases that these people are on the line for protecting that institution from experiencing. So this is not just IT people necessarily saying, well, we're going to be the bullies of the system and keep everybody out. There's a lot of there's a lot of fear of the potential risk.
You're sorry. So it's fear that's driving it, and they put the fear into the hand. That's the hammer that they use, and the institution goes along with it. The thought that I had this morning was, why couldn't you have just two independent systems, discrete systems? You've got the medical system, and then you hook up to the local cable company, and have your community. You have your social media on a different one, and those two lines never cross.
Because some of it isn't data that's stored, some of it is conversation that takes place. And I'm not defending the IT people, but I think it's important to be sensitive to what the underlying fear started as. But I do think that the IT people, in many cases, it's too easy to say no because then they don't have to work at making something work.
That's precisely it. It's an easy way to go, and there are marketing, and there are PR, and there are government relations people throughout the country who have been shackled by the IT department. So it's a button. It's a hot point for me. Sorry.
Wayne, you've joined the conversation, but you haven't said anything. Are you able to join us in actual conversation?
I'm curious if I am or not.
Yes, we can.
I have a lot to say, but I mean, I believe you're correct in saying that the IT department, that's the first thing they say, is they say, oh, well, we can't do that, or you need to contact Nashville or somebody like that and go through the proper channels. But there's so much potential for this to be used, especially I think we can increase HCAP scores. There's so many things that we can do with this tech, and I really am excited to talk to you, Kathy, because, again, I think there's so much that can be done just to help people out. I know there's numerous patients, they're always on their phones, especially like in isolation, and instead of having to ship them down the hall to go and see somebody else, or to be with other patients that they want to interact with, they can do this through video, right?
Absolutely. That is near and dear to my heart. And go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I do know, like Children's Hospital in New Orleans, now they have cameras set up for all of their neonatal babies. Right now, they can't talk to each other, but just imagine if you did this in an adult unit, that sort of thing. Or maybe you have family members that are in isolation and you can't get to them. Or maybe your family member is about to pass on and a nurse knows this and can contact you, and you can see your loved one and tell them these sorts of things. So I'm passionate about all the things that can be done, but you're correct. How do you cross these barriers and these traditional roles to get to administration, to get IT to work with you, to show what can be done?
It's a technological problem that has a technological solution to it. What's lacking is the will.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely have the will. So anybody that wants to join me and try and champion these things, that's really one of the projects that I am working on. So.
Well, it could be the other way around. Keep the patients that are not as sick from having to go to the hospital, where the patients like that have MRSA or some of the other problems in the hospital, where we don't have to go. To
right.
be that way.
Well, I really think it's going to help on the community setting. Again, the hospitals are becoming inundated with all these patients. Everybody's coming in. A lot of times people don't show up to their appointments. A lot of times they don't show up because it's just checking up because the doctor said come back in 2 to 3 weeks. Right? Right? I mean, how many times have you not gone back in 2 to 3 weeks? So you could have a nurse that just sits there and reviews HOAs all day for the 2 to 3 week checkup type of thing. Show me your wound. Is it healing or not? All right, it's healing. You didn't have to get up 3 hours early to come drive to me, that sort of thing, right? And then specialist is pretty much anybody's outside of a 100-mile radius of where you are.
So, yeah. So, Stephen, do you think that we've hijacked, and Kathy, you too, do you think we've hijacked your show yet?
Well, I think this is a great discussion. I do think that in order for those who are able to provide these tools and implement them in this environment to do so, you have to understand some of the limitations. And one of the limitations specifically on patients getting virtual consultation is there aren't billing codes to collect for that. So somebody has to pay for that. So you really have to identify those areas where you're going to save more time and energy than what it's going to cost you to provide it virtually. And if you can figure out where those savings are and argue them sufficiently to the leadership that makes the decisions, that's when you're going to be able to start doing some of these things. And I think it would be really wise of us as a community to work together to identify some of those areas to be able to figure out where the time savings and the money savings is. Where are we wasting money? Where can we save in infectious disease issues of keeping people away from each other, or providing easier healing, all those things that has an actual dollar value. I hate to say it, but it's true. We have to be willing to argue those.
I knew you were smart.
Well, it all begins here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we're going to have to continue this conversation offline. This may be a whole different hangout that we need to discuss later, because I would really like to dive into that and take a look. And one last thing on that before we move to the last article is I think it's also important to get social communication tools to be used across the departments in organizations. When people think that this all lives in marketing only and it doesn't go anywhere else, it's never going to be able to be used across the board, because it's going to be seen as a marketing tool, and marketing tools are not given the same respect as communication, as anything else.
Well, what about grand rounds? I mean, am I on point with what you're talking about? Because, again, I see grand rounds as just being able to link people that you're even in the same hospital. Again, that's square footage they have to cover, and they may be by a critical patient that they really do not want to leave. With this type of technology, we can still have grand rounds, basically be in a virtual room instead of having to be in the physical room and in the same location. So there's numerous ways we can use this tech.
Yeah, it all boils down to privacy issues. Can we do it in a way that we don't compromise patient privacy? Can we get the proper waivers? Can we make sure that it's not hitting the public stream, that it's not accessible by someone who's not supposed to see it? And here's an interesting thing I've sort of picked up on over the years of having these discussions and asking people who are the decision makers what would make this fly. If a patient initiates a hangout with another patient, for example, if my baby, if I had a neonatal baby who was able to operate a hangout, and I was able to operate a hangout, we'd be able to do that within the hospital because it's patient to patient deciding to put that out there. It's when the health organization, people there get involved that there's a bigger risk, is my understanding. So let's move on to one last thing because we only have 4 minutes in this discussion, and that's way too short. I'm going to switch gears entirely to Google Plus Stories that just came out. How many of you have seen and know what the stories are that people are talking about? Anybody?
I don't. I mean, my last thing that I really heard about Google Plus was it was The Walking Dead, and Vic's gone, and that's it. So, right.
Well, Stories is a new feature that just came out. Some of you remember when we had some of the photo. What did they call that?
Auto Awesome?
Yeah, Photo Awesome. Some of them, the smile feature and the snow and water ripples. Well, they've just come out with a new one. It's called Stories. And Google Plus will take what's already in your downloads, even if you haven't released them, and will look at the dates and locations of those pictures and build for you a storyboard of that trip or that event and find a connection between those pictures. And it's really kind of cool. And I tried it. Today I looked at what Google had grabbed and put together, and I discovered first one important thing. If you're going to have these things built and you're going to start using them, you definitely want to delete all the garbage pictures or pictures that you don't want included, because I do a lot of glass demos, and so I had a bazillion of these 10-second, this is how you do a video, and when you do it,
pictures of your feet.
Yeah, and through glass selfies, more or less, before I've had it in glass, and some of them were like, for example, my clients. So I had big signs that have the buildings with the name of clients that I was going. So I'm like, delete, delete, delete. So I didn't release any of those, but I went back to one that was from February, Valentine's Day, where I was part of a fundraiser, and it was a very nice storyboard. I've released it, so if you're interested in seeing what one looks like, you can go to my stream on Google Plus and look for the story that I've recently released there. It'll say Valentine's Day, and then it has some of the videos and some of the pictures that I took that day, and it really does do a nice collage. And I would like to have you take a look at those, and maybe we can have another discussion later, but how do you see this playing into healthcare? How could you have stories to tell that would not be patient at risk, that you might be able to use these?
Well, I mean, from a marketing perspective, I think you could do lots of cool stuff. I mean, I've seen hospitals use Instagram for heart surgery and Vine videos for marketing of. Did you see the one where the guy who's having brain surgery playing the guitar in the Vine video? I forgot the hospital that did it, but I mean, there's lots of cool uses of social media. I think it was Arnold Palmer's Children's Hospital who did heart surgery on a 5 or 6-year-old and used Instagram to update during the surgery, and like the nurse would come out to tell the parents what was going on. They said, we already know how it's going, because it's faster than you can walk. So I think that's super cool. So stories would be really interesting for something like that.
I say that this could be a terrific opportunity for hospital foundations or for nonprofit organizations that are forever trying to reach out. They are in the business of telling stories all the time. So if this is a new format for them to be able to do it, and especially if you can have a very powerful story that doesn't take a lot of time and expertise to put together, the material that they put out has already been approved, and finesse it, take it out, and it benefits both the foundation and their parent or their antecedent organization. So that part I think would be great.
I want to pose a question now in wrapping all this up. What if one of the strategies of a hospital, for example, was to tell all the employees, anytime you have an opportunity to help a patient take a picture and filter out the things that shouldn't be there. Maybe someone just had a baby, maybe someone's sister just came to visit. Anytime there's an opportunity, offer to take a picture, because you can take the pictures on their phone, it'll be theirs, but those are stories that can be told later. And then maybe start to empower patients in how to tell those stories, whether it's through teaching patients how to use the story feature or how to use Pinterest or just linking to the different sites. What do you think would happen to the stories that are told about the health organization, about the experiences that are done, if there were more opportunities to have happy pictures taken?
I have told a story.
Like what?
It was a Mother's Day story, of course, about epilepsy, about what the process of the ketogenic diet and how a little boy went through all of that from when he was had to first until he was 2 years old, knew what all this other food tasted like, but then knowing about the diet, he had to come off all of those fruits that he loved, and then how afterwards he was able to, after he was 7, he was able to come off it, and the first thing he asked for was a banana. And now he's free of epilepsy, and everything he can play, baseball, and it's just pictures that I took of it too. So and he has a YouTube thing they did, his mother put together on YouTube, but it's on the site that I have, the community, and a little card I made online for the mom, because it just touched my heart, and I asked her if I could make one, and so there's something on there if they wanted to use, but I started doing that because that touched my heart, so I had to say that.
Well, I think it's really exciting where we're going, all of the tools that are continually evolving, and really looking at using the social tools beyond just y'all come and see our physicians and come to our hospitals and, you know, bringing people in through the doors. I think it's more about getting people to tell the stories that will really build the brand of whoever you're working for. This is the end of this week's edition of Healthcare, What's News in Healthcare Social Media. We've gone a few minutes over, but I think it was well worth it. And I would like to thank all of you who joined me live today, Roxanne and Scott and Stephen and Wayne. And I look forward to doing this again next week. See what topics we have, yes?
Kathy, can I get in a quick little plug?
Sure.
I would enjoy if everybody could check out Next Wave Connect. We are doing smarter communities for social media and healthcare. If you go over there's lots of great discussions, ICD-10 to, you know, how to use Twitter for your hospital. So there's lots of cool stuff going on over there. And we will be in Nashville, in your neck of the woods, Kathy, September 17th through the 19th with a really cool conference. Lots of data, privacy talk, a lot of things that we covered here. So please check it out.
And
cool.
could you put something in the comment stream so that we can check it out easily, please, Stephen?
Absolutely, will do. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Great. Well, this was a great discussion. Thank you all again. And this is Kathy Brown signing out.